What?
Hi there, Bill Hitchcock. Fantastic program for you today. Something I'm most anxious to get out to you. We all know that there's a new law that will be going into effect. Let me just get this rolling here. That will be going into effect real soon, where recreational fishermen are going to have to report their catches of speckled trout, gray trout, striped bass, drum, and flounder. They're going to have to report that. We thought it was going to be December of this year that we're going to start the reporting, but no, they pushed it back to December of 2025. This also includes commercial fishermen. They have to report their catch when they're recreationally fishing as well. All that's pushed to 2025, December of next year. The North Carolina Marine Fisheries Commission had a special meeting in June to hash things out. And one of the things that is really exciting that you're going to find of great interest is that they opened up to a survey. They went up to the general public. What do you think about this new rule that will be kicking in where you recreational fishermen have to act like a commercial fisherman with these 5 fish that you actually have to report your catch? Over 2,000 people responded to this questionnaire survey. And to give you an idea of the magnitude of the over 2,000, national surveys will do like 500 people. Maybe 1,000, but over 2,000 people responded to what do you think about this new reporting methodology. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Marine Fisheries Commission meeting. It was actually done on a Zoom call. You can see all the fine folks here like Rob Bazell and Kathy Rawls and Jesse Bissett and Tom Roller and all. They're in on this Zoom call talking about a lot of things with this special meeting, but I want to go to the survey right now. It's fascinating, the results.
So there were over 2,000 written public comments that were received on these proposed temporary rules. 2,009 of those came via our online comment form, and 4 of them actually were mailed letters. Of those 2,013 comments, 83 of them expressed opposition to the proposed rules, 10% of them were in support of the rules, and 7% of the comments were undecided. In the comments that were against the rules, there were several common themes that emerged. Many commenters believed that the rules were unenforceable and impractical, and that there was no ability to ensure compliance with the rules. And as such, skepticism about the effectiveness and efficiency of the proposed reporting system was common, and many people had concerns about the accuracy and reliability of the collected data. Opponents also often highlighted that the rules would add unnecessary bureaucracy and complexity and would actually diminish the enjoyment that they get from fishing. Many commenters also felt that this was an example of government overreach. For the comments that were in support of the proposed rules, there were also some common themes expressed. Many supporters believe that mandatory harvest reporting will lead to better data, which is crucial for better resource management and conservation efforts, and there is a belief that these rules will bring long-term benefits in terms of fish population health and ecosystem balance. Supporters also noted that these proposed rules were a positive step towards ensuring accountability for both the commercial and recreational fishermen. And with that being said, those that were in support of these proposed rules did stress the need to create an efficient, user-friendly reporting system. For the commenters who were undecided, the common theme was that they just needed more information about how fishermen would actually be reporting before they could decide whether or not they wanted to support these rules. Like those who were in support of the rules, they stressed the importance of an easy-to-use reporting system, and the undecided folks also had some concerns about the reliability of the self-reported data. And that's pretty much the brief summary of the comments that we received.
All righty, straight from the horse's mouth. Some of the things I found very interesting. 2,009 of the respondents, wow, came via our online comment form, and 4 did snail mail. So, you know, technology and today. Of those 213 comments, 83 of them expressed opposition to the proposed rules. And there are some really good responses, really good questions, and really good concerns that were brought up, such as enforceable, impractical, skepticism about the effectiveness and efficiency of the proposed reporting methodology. People that supporters thought it would be better data, crucial for better resource management. Also, there was in the support said rules did stress the need to create an efficient, user-friendly reporting system. That's a great concern. It's got to be user-friendly. I mean, you're out there in the mud and the sand and the water and the muck and the bait and blood, guts, and gore. You got to have a good, fast, and efficient way to report. I understand completely. Concerns about the reliability of self-reporting data. That was also brought up. And that's also a big concern. You know, it's left up to you. And you have to volunteer to do this. It's not like a commercial fisherman that if he wants to sell his catch, he's got to go to the dock and the trip tickets and it's all counted. You're out there in wherever land, whether it's in the inner banks, the outer banks, whatever, and you have to report it. It's up to you. So there could be a hitch in the giddy up with that. So not everybody is responsible. The other aspect to that, by the way, is in the recreational community, I have two different types of recreational, or I've defined two different types of recreational saltwater fishermen. One is just that. You're a recreational fisherman. You come down for your week's vacation or whatever, and one of the things you do is go down to the pier or maybe go surf fishing. It's just part of your overall activity. Then there's what I call the ardent angler, A-R-D-E-N-T. I hope that's right. That belongs to the CCA, belongs to the sport fishing clubs, that goes in just really heavy duty, you fish a lot. Those are the people that respond. Those are the people that went to the DMF to, hey, we don't like this. The recreational fishermen didn't. Why? Because they don't even know about it. They don't even know what they're catching, if they catch. So anyway, now let's go back to the meeting. A very interesting point was brought up where it was, can they change the rules? Once this is implemented, can the rules be changed by the commission or by the Division of Marine Fisheries? That would really stink. If all the rules are set and you're out there in a year or two or 3 or 4 or 5 years later, whoop, I'm going to change the rules. They answer that question.
Chairman Bizzle,
Yes.
I have one question. Do we have the ability to amend this rule at a future date? And do we also have the ability to make suggestions to the General Assembly about the legislation?
I'll turn that over to Philip. I think we can make suggestions, but I do not think we can amend this. Am I correct, Philip?
I think you will be able to amend it potentially in the future when you adopt the permanent rules to replace the temporary rules. So right now this is your first shot at adopting the rules as required by the General Assembly. And doing so on a temporary basis, but temporary rules expire. So commissions are required to also adopt permanent rules to take the place of the temporary rules. So if there are modifications that are necessary based on what I'll call a dry run of this stuff, then at that time, then that's certainly possible. It's just that no amendment to the rules can be contrary to the direction of the General Assembly to adopt these reporting requirements.
Another great question that was brought up about this new rule that will be implemented in December 2025 is, when is it no longer fishing? You're out there and you stop fishing, but you're on your boat or you're still out on the surf. What determines when do you stop fishing? Also, the measuring aspect. They address that situation.
It's important that the public understand, first of all, that this is a legislative initiative and not something put forth by the commission or the division. And I just want to state that. There's two sections of language that I just kind of just going to throw onto the table just to show my concern. So the first section 1 regarding fishermen not fishing from a vessel, the sentence "no longer engaged in fishing." To me, that reads as a very gray and ambiguous statement, something that I potentially have issues with in terms of law enforcement. The second one is more of a question, which is section 5, and it says species length, if applicable. I'm curious as to why the phrase "if applicable" was put in there, and if anybody could answer that for me, and I will have another quick follow-up here.
Chairman
Okay.
Bissell, I
Yes,
can address that if you'd like.
please.
The species length, if applicable, the reason it's phrased that way is so that if for a given species it makes sense to include that in what is required, then the rule establishes the authority for the commission and the division to ask that of anglers. If it's not in the rule, we cannot ask. It may or may not be germane in each of the species, especially moving forward over time. And so it's included to have it be possible. And then as we work out the particulars of the reporting tool, we can include that as it pertains to each of the 5 species.
Evidently, there have been some untruths, as it was called, about the survey. Well, let's just go take a listen as what was said.
All of us here have generally suppressed a lot of support for shoring up our recreational data collection, as well as some of the loopholes in commercial reporting.
Yeah.
When it comes to recreational reporting, I'm certainly supportive of it. I guess my concern here is, as we move forward with this, is that what we're asking anglers is to report the species that the current system, MREP, actually works pretty well for. And those are the species that are harvested by a large group of people and are more common. We all know that MREP's deficiencies are things like quota monitored species, and you can put southern flounder or potentially striped bass in that category if you were allowed to harvest them. But we all know that looking at our greater species, such as our big game species that are really data deficient, rare event species or species that are caught by smaller groups of people. And there's a lot of just mislanguage that's been sent out. Like I received an email from the North Carolina Marine and Estuary Foundation from Chad Thomas. And one of the statements in there was just untrue. It said, not shockingly, the federal surveys have their limitations. In August 2023, new sources of error identified that brought the survey program to a halt through at least 2026. That is false. The survey is not brought to a halt. There has been an overestimation error put in there, and there are pilot studies being done, but MREP is still being used for stock assessments, fisheries management, and data is being collected.
Now, the MREPs that they were talking about is a Marine Recreational Information Program. That's done on a national basis, been going on. It's a good program. And yes, I know I ain't never been surveyed. As I've told you before, I've been surveyed once in over 40 years. So what are we going to do? Now, this is what I want to talk about. You may recall before this meeting, when I first did the program about we're going to have to report again speckled trout, gray trout, striped bass, red drum, and flounder. They were talking about reporting your catch. And I said, well, what about the releases? And the analogy I made was, say if you catch 10 flounders, 8 are short, and you kept 2, so you're only going to report 2. So 80% of your catch is unreported. It didn't make any sense. Well, guess what? Maybe they watched the show, I don't know, but they addressed that as well.
Just real quick, so I can put on the record as well, just to follow up Chairman Roller. My concern or issue is there's 5 species, 2 of which you cannot harvest, so there's no data there, and then 2 species where you can only harvest 1 per person, so very little data there, and then obviously the 3rd you can do 4th, and so going forward, to me, if you really want to truly collect data, having releases added to a harvest and release program makes more sense to me.
Duly noted.
One follow-up, Mr. Chairman, if you may.
I thought you want to turn your microphone.
No, well, you know me. I talk a lot. I agree with Commissioner Hobgood that we should be looking at releases in the future, particularly since this data stream is not going to be comparable to MREP in any way, and we're not sure how it can be used for management. I think the analogy I wanted to put on is the species we're asking people to report is, if we were going to draw an analogy to hunting, we're asking people to report their squirrels, bunnies, and quail while ignoring the big game species like deer, turkeys, and bear. At least that's the analogy I see to if we're going to use hunting to fishing. So yeah. I guess my objection is generally to the species that were chosen, but again, I'm generally supportive of any new data collection streams that are going to improve fisheries management.
Okay, right.
So this is all an ongoing process. You may recall when I first started doing shows about this new law, that I got an email, or I emailed Rob Bizzle, the chairman of the Marine Fisheries Commission. I emailed him, and one of the things he said when he responded back is that they're trying to get more time, because at the time it was going to be December 2024, and this was in June at the time, so it's 5-6 months time to get everything together. It just wasn't enough time. And that was one of the things that expressed. Fortunately, they got the more time so they can go implement this program in 2025. Email me, billhitchcock@mail.com, billhitchcock@mail.com, billhitchcock@mail.com. Now, speaking of emails and emailing me, hopefully you recall the program we did about the nonprofit 501c3 charitable organizations that are the CCA, that are the Wildlife Federation, that are the Coastal Federation, and I lumped in the North Carolina Fisheries Association with that as well. Well, I stand corrected, and this is why I want you to email me. Jerry Schill with the North Carolina Fisheries Association sent me an email saying, no, Bill, the Fisheries Association is not a 501c3, which is a nonprofit charitable organization. The Fisheries Association is the 501c6, which is a trade group. They have to follow by a different set of rules. So the Fisheries Association is not a nonprofit charitable organization, 501c3, like all the other people are. And if I'm still wrong, email me. BillHitchcock@mail.com, BillHitchcock@mail. That scared the daylights out of me. .com. Now, I want to get into an email that was sent to me, and I love this email. It's a very long email. I can't go over all of it. It came from Steve Benson, out of the blue. And he asked, like I said, I can't go over everything. I can do an entire show, but I am just going to spot check some things that he brought up. Now, the reason why I like this email, there's several reasons why. One, he wasn't rude. I love it, like on YouTube when you see those little comments. Some of you guys, I hope it was 2 in the morning and you had 25, 7, 11 dozen beers in you, because if you act like that normally, we got a problem. You're a liar. You're full of cow manure, except they don't say cow manure. I mean, just out of the blue. Oh, okay. How do you think I'm going to respond to that? Well, Steve wrote a real nice letter, and I don't think there's anything in here that he agrees with me on, but he brings up several points. I just want to touch on some of them. It says, you discredited the 4x1, it's actually a 4.5 pound bycatch, but there are many other sources that do not dispute the high bycatch rate. Saw one at 5 pounds and another at 20 pounds. I read the nets don't hurt to ecosystem bottom in the Pamlico. Hard to believe, so I find your proofs a little selective. Well, he starts off, you discredited the 4-to-1 bycatch. I didn't discredit. The author of that study discredited. I got the transcript, which I read in that show prior. It was the Dr. Lewis Daniel, who was the director of the Division of Marine Fisheries at the time, 4.5 pounds of bycatch for every pound of shrimp caught. He apologized in a public meeting. This is where the transcript comes from for that information. He said it was wrong. He told the division, don't use it. He apologized. So I didn't discredit it, the author of the 4.5 pounds. Dr. Lewis Daniels did. All right, what else does he say? He said, I recreational fish about once a week. I have observed the shrimp net pulling and dumping on the table and all the non-shrimp flipping on the deck. You can't say it's not a lot. You see the amount of birds picking up the pushed over bycatch. Those fish are surviving? ? In Moorhead Inlet, the shrimp boats stop and clean up the decks for the day. The trail of dead fish looks like a fish kill, and it includes species at risk. So let's be honest, it kills a lot of fish, and common sense would say that has an effect, aka common sense. You never said that at all, so that was unfair. Yeah. All right. By the way, how many of you have been on a shrimp trawl? How many of you have been on an otter trawl? How many of you have been out on a skimmer trawl? How many know the difference between an otter trawl and a skimmer trawl? I've been out on more than dozens, probably hundreds. Same with gill nets. I have been on the boat, been there, with camera in hand, with crew. So I've seen. So I'm talking from firsthand experience here, not from some misguided information that's being brought out to you. One of the things that I find very funny is, yes, there is bycatch. The they have worked so hard for decades to eliminate. I went over this in the other program about all the different bycatch reduction devices, fish excluders, turtle excluders, big fish excluders, all in there. Trust me, the commercial fishermen, the shrimpers, don't want any bycatch. We went into that. But one thing I wanted to bring up that I thought was very funny is that there's a recreational benefit to the bycatch. If you've ever been out on the water, you made mention about Moorhead Inlet, Beaufort Inlet, that I've seen firsthand is that there was a very well-known Coastal Conservation Association, Marine Fisheries Commission commissioner that used to have pictures on his Facebook page of him fly fishing behind what? A shrimp trawl. And this is the very guy who's trying to ban it. Double standards. I found the amount of estuary acreage interesting. There's millions of acres here in North Carolina. We showed you, we talked about this in an other episode. North Carolina is unique to the entire eastern seaboard. No one else has what we have here. The other thing to keep in mind, once you go north of the Point of Hatteras, now you're into the cold water. You're in a completely different water system as well as estuarine system. But shrimp are caught from Maine to Texas. That's a lot of estuary. Why is it not? Is no shrimping is allowed in a territory we are a small fraction of? Because we have the largest estuarine system. No one else has the system that we have. We went over that in the show. Common sense would say there is a valid reason. My shrimp comes from the ocean and the supply has been steady. It's not just about flounder, by the way. It just goes on and on and on. It's self-explanatory, and we explained it. Nowhere else except the coast of North Carolina has this estuarine inside water system. No one on the eastern seaboard, period. That's why we are able to catch and do where other places can't catch and do. How about flounder allocation, 75% to commercial? Yeah, they were phasing it more evenly, but conveniently delayed the phase-in. That's not a power play hurting recreational fishing. That's the question. See, and that just really, it's become very, very evident. A lot of you think that this is a power play. We're out to get you. We're going to shut you down, recreational fishermen. No. And how do you respond? With insults and cussing and all that? And as I've been saying, no one's going to listen to you when you talk like that. I'm listening to Steve. I'm not agreeing with hardly anything I've gone over so far, but great. Keep the cards and letters coming. We'll read them. I'll read them. Love it. I'm sorry, but gill netting is also a travesty. Why do you say that? It's the wall of death. That's what the CCA used to call it. No, and we've covered this as well. You got a hole like this, or you got a hole like this, your mesh, your stretched mesh or marsh, that a big fish can't go through a little hole. A little fish can go through a big hole. This is how a gill net is selective. And I made mention about he's no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago. A study that a gentleman with the North Carolina Division of Marine Fisheries did, where he set like a large mesh net and right behind it a medium-sized mesh net and then a smaller size mesh net. Guess what? Big fish got caught in the first net with the big holes. No little fish. Medium-sized fish got caught in the medium-sized holes. No big fish, no little fish. And in the backside net, where it had little size mesh, it caught nothing but little fish. No medium fish, no big fish. It's basic logic. It's a system that works. And believe it or not, you're going to freak out on this. You can catch and release a gill-netted fish and it survive. It's not the wall of death. And one other thing that just frost my cookies. I think I made mention about this story. I met a gentleman. I just don't understand the mindset sometimes. He was all upset at the commercial fishermen about flounder. This is a couple of years ago, by the way. And he said that when he goes to the seafood market, that all the flounders there were rotten. And he's blaming the commercial fishermen. And he said, from his mouth to my ears, that the commercial fishermen just will leave fish out there for weeks before they bring them in. Well, this is what he was being taught. He was from the Greensboro area. and it's hokum. It's hokum. Now, the last thing I want to go over, if you can handle the flack, well, let me stop right there. You know, first month or so I started back doing this, people, who's paying you? Who's paying you? No one's paying me. I'd love to be paid. But you see, you're trying to disqualify me by saying I'm being paid by somebody. All right, let's take that premise. So you now can't listen to anything the CCA says because they're paid. You now can't listen to anything that the Wildlife Federation says. They're paid. You now can't listen to anything the Coastal Federation says. They're paid. You now can't listen to anything the Division of Marine Fisheries or the National Marine Fisheries say because both of those organizations are paid. Oh, I'd love to have advertisers. And as I always have with all of my TV shows, my dead set rule is that if the magic wiffle lure is an advertiser, but the XYZ lure is working, we're talking about the XYZ lure. That's why we get eyeballs. We're not propaganda slanted agenda. Wide ass open. I want to hear from you. Bill Hitchcock at mail.com, Bill Hitchcock at mail.com, Bill Hitchcock at mail.com. And if you can handle the flack, I wish you would expose a recreational charter captain. Plot thickens. There's a new one popping up every day. It's always been that way. They are professional fishermen targeting the controlled species. I'm not quite sure what's being said here. That is not a bycatch issue. They fish with the patrons, get told where the fish are biting and where and how to get bait. Dock pictures have a silly amount of mackerel, etc. I'm not exactly sure what's being said there. They used to call them tax boats. I remember in the 90s, like in the Moorhead waterfront, them tax boats. These people rich people, they buy a boat and there's a tax write-off and they're hurting the charter boat community. It's legal. That's all I can tell you. And finally, just a note, and I did it on purpose today, more would listen to you if you were not as sarcastic towards others that may not think like you. It's a democratic republic. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. Most people think we're a democracy. Others are allowed their opinion, even if it is stupid, but I don't think my points are that stupid. No, your points aren't stupid, Steve, not at all. And I enjoyed every single one of them, although I evidently haven't agreed with them. But more, keep writing. It has nothing to do with who thinks like me. Nothing at all. It has everything to do with, again, just go to YouTube, the cussing, the accusations, the rudeness. You're fair game when you do that. I hope you know that. You're fair game. So all I've done is done voices like this for people that are doing goofy stuff. That's all I've ever done. And I'll continue to do it. I'll continue to point out fallacies. I'll continue to point out untruths. If you got a truth, let me know. Bill Hitchcock at mail.com, Bill Hitchcock at mail.com, Bill Hitchcock at mail.com. If I'm wrong, let me know. By the way, I especially enjoy it when I've got the document, bill, legislation, whatever it is in hand, and I'm reading directly from it, and you're full of... Anyway, I found the survey fascinating. I really, really did. The amount of people that responded, fantastic. Keep responding to anything you can like that. That is perfect. Believe me, the fisheries managers do pay attention to what's being said and how you say it. They need this type of information, and I want to hear from you. So email me. I'm Bill Hitchcock. Until next time, see ya.